high-speed rail is a new modern transportation network for the United States of America. If anyone has ever traveled outside the U.S., say to Europe, they're probably familiar with the high-speed trains that connect major metropolitan areas. They're alternatives to air travel primarily, but also to traveling by road. And it was terrific. Under the Recovery Act, President Obama set aside billions of dollars to invest in this modern transportation network for the United States. And we fought and scraped and won the first major award of Recovery Act dollars for high-speed rail that will begin by connecting Tampa to Orlando and then eventually Miami and then up the eastern seaboard over the next few decades.
And so you mentioned that it's going to connect Orlando to Tampa. What type of speed are we talking about on these trains? How far will it travel, and what's the cost?
Well, right now we have $1.2 billion awarded to the state of Florida to get it off the ground. The state of Florida has applied for another $1 billion grant to have all funding in place, Tampa to Orlando, and then begin the leg down to Miami. The state of Florida will ante up some monies as well, and we're talking about high speeds, faster than a car will go on I-4. But it's going to be a wonderful option for folks, for tourists, for business people, for students, for people who cannot drive a car to travel. It is one of the ways that we are going to build Florida's new economy, because we're not going to be able to rely on the old real estate booming times anymore, but we have to be able to attract jobs and build a new transportation network, and high-speed rail is going to be the backbone of that.
And there are meetings this week. There are meetings on Tuesday in Tampa, Wednesday in Lakeland, and Thursday in Orlando. Tell us about what people can expect if they go to these meetings.
Yeah, remember, the high-speed rail comes out of the Recovery Act. The Recovery Act was focused on creating jobs. So the high-speed rail really in Florida means thousands and thousands of jobs. So this week, the Florida Department of Transportation is going to come to Tampa, Lakeland, and Orlando and have workshops for small businesses that are interested in obtaining contracts for the high-speed rail initiative. So at the Tampa Convention Center, 2:30 on Tuesday, then at the Lakeland Civic Center, 2:30 on Wednesday, and at the Orange County Civic Center, 2:30 on Thursday. Small businesses can come and hear about the opportunities for jobs and product placement.
And then in the evenings, there's public input. Is that right?
Right, and then the Department of Transportation is going to open up and hold public forums in the evenings at the same locations at 6 o'clock. And the public is welcome to come and hear about the status of high-speed rail. Florida is on track now to having the first leg of the National High-Speed Rail Network, Tampa to Orlando, probably by 2015.
And that's very soon. And one of the concerns that I've heard is that there are no companies in the U.S. that actually builds these high-speed trains. It's such a new technology on this continent that we'll have to outsource that and buy trains from Spain or from Japan or from China. What do you know about that?
There's a little tug of war going on right now. There are companies that are building some that have built those rail cars and the technology overseas. They have plants now opening in the U.S., in upstate New York and in California. So there's and the intent of the Recovery Act is to build it in America and hire locally, not hire overseas. But there's going to be a little tug of war as high-speed rail gets off the ground. Can our manufacturing plants gear up fast enough to provide that technology in the rail cars? And the intent of the Obama administration, as I understand it right now, is to encourage those manufacturing plants to be hiring in the U.S. But we'll see. Hopefully we can do that.
Let's talk about the cost. You mentioned that it was $2.5 billion was how much we asked for how much Florida asked for in the initial package. And Florida was awarded about $1.25 billion, which is roughly $1.25 billion short. You also said that we're applying for $1 billion in additional funding, and that some funding will come from the state. Well, the state budget is certainly not doesn't have lots of money flowing. Where is the state going to get some of the funding to help pay for the high-speed line?
Well, the state of Florida, one of the reasons we attracted the initial grant of $1.25 billion is because the state of Florida already has all of the right-of-way, and that is a significant contribution compared to other proposals all across the country. So Floridians have already, due to planning done in past years, we have already contributed a great deal. So that $1.25 billion we've got in the bank currently, and then the next $1 billion that we're probably going to win will cover the whole Tampa to Orlando leg, and then get us started on the leg to Miami.
Tell me about the Florida Rail Enterprise. This is the group that's overseeing the whole high-speed rail endeavor. Who is the Florida Rail Enterprise, and what do they do?
They're an arm of the Florida Department of Transportation. They're the ones charged with overseeing the high-speed rail initiative here. What they have determined is that it is most efficient if they pursue a design, build, operate, and maintain contract. So they're going to go out for a proposal, and it's going to be a doozy. It's going to be a big one, and it's going to be very competitive to have a contractor come in and design the high-speed rail line, operate it, maintain it, build it. It's going to be very significant.
So it sounds like ultimately it will be a private company that runs this train instead of having it be a government service like, I guess, like Amtrak is. Is that right?
That's correct. That's correct. Because they want this private operator to take some of the risk. And that's very appropriate. And when you look at other operations around the globe, oftentimes that's how high-speed rail lines are operated.
What about logistics then, as far as what if the operator says these tickets are going to be this price, and then the government doesn't really have any kind of recourse? Is there anything we can do about that?
I think that the state will still maintain a great deal of control over the operator, but it's going to have to be self-sustaining, and that will be an interesting topic of conversation down the line.
In the Tampa City Council, there's been some talk about extending the high-speed rail line from its terminus in downtown Tampa to the Tampa International Airport, which is about 7 miles away. What are your thoughts about the wisdom of that?
Well, I wish we had unlimited funds, that we could do everything, that we could right now have high-speed rail come out of the ground and connect Tampa to Orlando and then Miami to Jacksonville, but these are limited dollars. So the long-term planning that has gone on for high-speed rail in Florida has focused on the terminus in downtown Tampa. And I think if we had our choice, that makes more sense, because from a redevelopment perspective, we want all of the energy focused on our downtown area. Think about the transformational aspects it will have right there in the northern part of downtown, outside Ybor City, as we have another significant investment coming in Central Park Village, the new Encore mixed-use project. A downtown terminus also is close to the cruise lines and Channel Side. It's very close to our fabulous Performing Arts Center, our new Children's Museum and Tampa Museum of Art. And this is where we want the energy and excitement to be. And then I'm hopeful that light rail will connect to the airport in an efficient way.
Which brings me to my last question, which is light rail, and the voters of Hillsborough will have a say in November as to whether that line gets started now or whether it has to start later on. What are your thoughts about November's referendum in Hillsborough County, the 1-cent additional sales tax for all sorts of transportation projects?
I think we're at a real crossroads in the Tampa Bay area. We've been so reliant on real estate development. We've got to diversify our economy and create new jobs. And I think one of the ways that we're going to do that is by investing in a modern transportation network. So at the time we have this huge investment and new jobs coming in for high-speed rail, it makes a tremendous amount of sense to connect up our entire community through an investment in light rail. I think you're going to see property values increase across town where they've dropped over the past few years. You're going to see new jobs, new development all along those rail lines. I think it's going to lift our community up and help us get back on track and create a lot of jobs.